So anyway, back to the divisive tactics of both sides. Yeah, I'll pick up where I left off. Kids who say they want to be trans, I think if they want to, like, I did not like girls' clothes. I didn't like girls' toys. If they don't want to play with dolls and wear pink dresses, let them wear boots and jeans and camouflage and play with Star Wars figures. And I always wanted the play school drills and saws. I didn't care about Barbie and that crap. I wanted Star Wars figurines. That's trans. But don't mean that the parents, now what happens to the parents? If the doctor says, well, we're going to inject your kid with some hormones or do a full mutilate their sex organs at the age of 12 or 14 or whatever. Parents are going to say, hell no, you're not. Then what? Then they're accusing you of child abuse. They're accusing the parents of child abuse. Because and it's basically healthcare fraud. So it's the same concept going on here with my situation, only what they've done, high-ranking military people who are hospital administrators and police and oversight. With Piper, she's Homeland Security, but she's got plenty of shield. There's plenty of shields at DOJ. It don't matter who the president is. With me, it started under Obama. And for me, it's also domestic violence because an attorney swore me in and immunized me and used me on cases, never paid me a dime. He's a Democrat. He's basically the Alan Dershowitz of the South. His father's a Republican hospital board member in Orlando, or was involved in these frauds with Rick Scott. They knew I had cancer, weren't telling me. I was constantly in the ER with hemorrhaging in excruciating pain, which included back pain because the uterus swells up and encroaches on that nerve, and it's just like having a slip disc or a herniated disc. In fact, I fell at on my father's steps because I couldn't feel my feet. That's why I was smoking so much. And me being autistic, I feel pain. And Dad's the same way. Both my parents are autistic. So physical pain to us is 1,000 times worse than it is for a normal person. Because most people have a huge amount of the dopamine and feel-good hormones because they're socially motivated. We don't have all that. It's not that our brain doesn't produce it. It's just that we're just not drunk on it. So because we're not drunk on it, our central nervous system is more hypersensitive, and that goes for sound, noise, bright colors, bright lights, and anything that affects the central nervous system, whether it's pain or noise, whether you take it in through your smells, tastes. So what they were saying was that I was just drug seeking for narcotics when they knew and they sent me to prison with that crap, which is a whole nother ball game. I was actually blowing the whistle on another group of child predators running rackets on the IRS, though they weren't really blue collar. They were white. They were committing white collar crimes, but there was plenty of blue collar people involved that didn't really understand it. They were just just part of it. And one of them, Richard Beasley, because the attorney generals under Pam Bondi, the state's attorneys under Pam Bondi, whom my employer and ex-boyfriend, I lived with this attorney. I met him in AA. Other people in AA, licensed professionals, cops, lawyers, doctors, other types of professionals put him under criminal investigation because they called him out. He doesn't get to go into AA as a cop because he was Orlando PD's vice crimes advisor. Hire me and make a ton of money off me, exploit the shit out of me, and not pay me a dime, and then run around and tell everybody in AA I'm relapsing and I'm this and I'm stealing and I'm doing, and they knew it was bullshit. He had a history of this. And if it was a civilian, it's one thing, but the little prick was a fucking cop who was also a special prosecutor under Obama Biden, according to him. Said he answered straight to Tony West. Kamala Harris, I call her Cop Mala, Kamala Harris's brother-in-law. She ain't no fucking liberal. She's what we call neoliberal. She's Republican running on a Democratic ticket. That's probably why Trump donated $8,000 to her California campaigns. Oh, and Epstein's defense firm, Kirkland Ellis, had a fundraiser for her. Bill Barr is an attorney, associate attorney with Kirkland Ellis, as was Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain. Uniparty of Epstein. We do not have two separate political parties. Trump was a Democrat. He's the one that raised the Clintons out of the Lewinsky impeachment ashes. You can go watch a video of him staunchly defending Bill Clinton, calling Paula Jones a loser, and she brought down a good president, and blah. And she made recordings just like me. So, and another divisive issue is the trans sports. I do not feel that people, if a woman transitions from female to male, and a male football team or track team thinks that she can keep up and compete with other men and accept her onto the team, that's fine. But it's not fair for a trans female, meaning somebody who's born male and then transitions to female, to go run on a female track team. Because they're going to have a hell of a lot more testosterone than the women, than the non-trans women. If any of those non-trans women start injecting testosterone or any other hormones to be able to keep up with the trans, to be able to properly compete fairly, they'd lose their place on the team. Now, how the hell is that fair? And again, that's not far left. That's actually right. They're just having people who claim to be Democrats and leftists argue that illogical crap. And the way I look at it, my father was a Golden Gloves boxer for the Navy. I remember he was always watching Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali. And I said, Muhammad Ali's the champion and Sugar Ray Leonard's a champion. Why don't they fight each other? And Dad said, because they're weight class. Sugar Ray's featherweight. Muhammad Ali's heavyweight. So when Sugar Ray gets in the ring with another featherweight, yeah, he can knock him out. But if he gets in the ring with Muhammad Ali could kill him, even though Sugar Ray can normally knock somebody else out. Is that discrimination? No, it's called logic and reason. It's called fair athletics. And when they're letting trans women who meaning they went from male to female, play on women's teams, that makes an unfair advantage for not only the women on the opposite team, but the women on the same team. I mean, setting sports records is a big deal. Who's going to hold the records? Ain't going to be naturally born women. And they've really taken that she, her, him pronouns, just, that's woke. It's a reason to clutch your pearls and get offended at somebody. It's silly. So this video's pissing off a lot of people, on people who claim to be on the right, people who claim on, But who it's really pissing off is the power construct that pretends to be two separate political parties and pulls this crap that is unfair to women and men everywhere. Because guess what? Let's say you're forced to have a C-section and you, for whatever reason, your insurance won't pay for it. Now they're coming after your property. And maybe it's the wife of active military or a military veteran just lost his house because they ran a scam. And if you think it stops with the forced C-section, it doesn't. You can also Google the Mizzou neurosurgeon whistleblower medical student. The Columbia, Missouri newspaper, online newspaper, including a link, had a link that you could hit to read a PDF of his 30-page sworn affidavit. He talked about all the horrible things doctors are doing to patients. Unnecessary surgeries. When they have you under for a surgery and they got you open, they'll do all kinds of horrible things to your innards so that you keep coming back. They want you going septic, so you keep coming back. Oh, and this is happening to a lot of veterans. When I was blowing this whistle and my articles were going viral on Flickr in Missouri, I had 3 veterans who did not know each other at 3 different times come up to me and tell me University of Missouri was trying to kill them. And it was all 3 of them were going septic from bad surgeries that were there. There was a VA hospital across the street from University of Missouri Hospital, but they don't do big surgery, so they outsource them to Mizzou. And they screwed up the surgery. They all went septic from MRSA, and all of them, one of them never did get to, and he was having to drink. He says, I don't even like alcohol, but the pain's so bad I can't stand it. I felt horrible for him. And he and I were in the same boat. One veteran they killed. He had a tumor on the back of his spine. Because he was helping me, they killed him. They sliced his spinal cord. Never did anything about the tumor. He couldn't, after that, he could barely speak and he couldn't move his arms or legs. They put him in a nursing home, didn't change his catheter. He got a horrible infection in his urinary tract. He was going, and luckily his girlfriend, he couldn't tell her where the pain was. Luckily, she started looking around and noticed his catheter bag was empty. And when they pulled the catheter out, lots of blood and clots came out of his penis. They tortured that man to death for no other reason than because he helped me. So that's the level of monstrosity we're dealing with. Oh, and these are Epstein's partners in crime. Trump and Epstein laundered the drug money generated by Governor and Attorney General Bill Clinton when the CIA under Ronald Reagan was flying in all those drugs through Mena, Arkansas, made famous in the movie Made in America with Tom Cruise. And my mother's family's from Arkansas, and they were all up in that shit. They didn't make a lot of money off of it, I don't think. I don't think they made a lot, but they were poor people. They didn't, they weren't going to make a lot. And then they, my mother's sister owned property in Columbia, and her family owned property in Arkansas, and they had big keggers with people out there. It was like Epstein Island, only it was a hillbilly version of Epstein Island, and I got molested. And they were all drunk and high, and they did it for bupkis. Now, just because she didn't live a wealthy lifestyle, Mary Green, my mom's sister, her husband was spent money like it was water, had to have $15,000 season tickets to Mizzou football games. And she worked 14-hour days as a nurse. And they eventually had 4 kids. They started out with 2, and then 2, Sean and Meredith, weren't even born until till I was a teenager and pretty much out of the house, left. And anyway, she's now fucking with me in texts and phone calls on behalf of her mammy and my mother, all still blaming it all on my father when it wasn't him doing that. And I know it wasn't him doing that. And that's kind of what the falsified medical records, they made this bogus pelvic floor diagnosis to explain the pelvic pain, and then a chronic back pain diagnosis, which they know it wasn't my back, it was the cancer. And then, okay, how'd you get pelvic floor? Oh, your pelvic floor issues is from your abuse as a child, which my mother and her sister and her family don't realize that Homeland Security and the police are blaming both parents. But they've got mom convinced that, oh, they're just blaming dad. They're not blaming her. Yeah, they're blaming both. And then I guess mom and her sister and her niece are taking all this money. They're getting them jobs and I don't know what other kind of kickbacks, along with my ex-boyfriend, an employer, because his dad was involved in it with Rick Scott, who's military and a healthcare CEO, right along with Navy veteran Virginia G. Piper. They get them jobs and they think because they're getting all that money from them, my mother and her family think because they're getting all that money from those police that they're not also being accused. No, they're being set up. So when Meredith reaches out to me and fucks with me on behalf of mom, that's more evidence of the accusation. They just don't realize they're being set up to do it. And then they run and tell dad, well, Heather told us this, Heather told us that. No, Heather recorded Chad Cronin, the attorney I lived with, the one that came into AA and lied on, exploited me, and then lied on all the other lawyers. And they're mandated to do an investigation into him and all his powerful friends that are threatening us. You don't get to send cops into AA meetings and use something they say that happened, something they said in a meeting 10 years ago to support some some malicious criminal investigation today. And both of you as chief and sheriff will understand that. That's what they're doing. They even had a lawyer. Now, I think he'd been going to those meetings for years, and I just happened to go there. They even had him running cover for them. He was supposed to march me into the sheriff's department if I knew that they were falsifying evidence, especially during the scamdemic, because that's national security. That means none of the stats on COVID were accurate. What else? Anyway, I recorded one of the Homeland Security agents. I recorded, her name is Darla Munoz de Toloi, and she was a childhood neighbor. Her father was a drug mule. And I believe he brought in kids that they abducted or